Hello, this is Ed Stefanko. I'm just following up with you on the email I sent earlier this week with the YouTube video. Yesterday I received a phone call from a general manager of a larger store, and he expressed a lot of the same concerns that I alluded to in the video. Specifically, he's J.D. Power Customer First Validated, was an award winner last quarter, but he is concerned this quarter for what he's seeing halfway through it as to whether or not he's going to earn his money back. Specifically, he's sitting on the 6 pillars within about a point and a half on each of the pillars. But he's concerned with the loss of the hot alert process, which he effectively was able to turn bad surveys into good. With losing that, he's kind of stuck with whatever surveys he's getting. And he knows, just like you do, for every bad survey that you get, it takes 10 to 15 to correct it. And he just doesn't see his survey count going up enough to cover for those. So he called me looking for assistance. Specifically, what he wanted to know is if I would make the phone calls for him, or if I knew somebody who could do that rather than his current process. I asked him why he wanted to use an outside service, and he said, I can't trust the sales consultants and the service advisors to make the phone call. And that's really the heart of the problem, is getting the right person to make the follow-up call. There's a saying, give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a meal. Teach him how to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime. The approach I try to take with dealers and try to stress to them is find a long-term solution. Finding somebody who just make the phone calls for you and boost your survey counts, whether short-term or long-term, is not necessarily the best way to do it. Let's use as an example. When I go to the Tom Thumb this month, I walk into the store and there's a stand up there selling Girl Scout cookies. Now when the moms come up and ask me would I buy some Girl Scout cookies, I usually say no, I've got a bunch of them in the pantry already, thank you anyway. But when those cute little girl comes up, and the one who's taking responsibility for selling the cookies say, would you please buy some Girl Scout cookies? I reach into my wallet, pull out $10 and say give me a couple of Thin Mints or lemonade cookies. Getting to that point is the little girl's taking responsibility, and I'm more inclined to respond to her than to the mother. Same type of thing when you get phone calls, people asking for, so you know it's a survey call. I'm more inclined to respond to the person who provided me the service than the person who's just looking for the survey. So getting back to what do I try to do and what's the long-term solution on this problem? How are you going to up your survey count? How are you going to get better surveys? How are you going to keep your numbers above the pillars? What I try to stress with the dealers is to develop and implement a process that's going to work. And I'm old school, as I mentioned before, sold cars for 13 years. In my mind, if I was a general manager and owner, sales consultants and service advisor would be responsible for making those calls, and I'd make sure they're happy. It would be part of their employment. Second thing, give them the tools and the elements and the training and the coaching that'll give them the results they want. Just telling the person to make the call, and if you've listened to those calls, some are effective, some are not. My biggest thing is make that follow-up call all about the customer. Make sure you're taking care of them. Then you can hit into the survey. I think the third thing I try to do is work with the managers, train the trainer, give them elements and things that they can do on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis to reinforce these follow-up processes to make sure that we're not coming 2 months into the quarter, our numbers are down and we have to panic and try to knock enough surveys out in the last 3 or 4 weeks to get where we need to be. We want it to be a continuous process that works all month long, all quarter long. Let me give you an example of some of the stores that I've worked with and how effective this has been. Small store, North Shore of New Orleans, 3 advisors, 12 technicians, do 75, 80 ROs a day. Ron, one of the advisors, has been there 12 years. Joey, another one, has been there for 8. I observe them in their operation. Their customers love them. I look at their scores and they don't reflect it. I look at the stores in the district, and this store happened to be at the bottom of the district in CSI. So what did we do for this store? Well, we developed and implemented processes which would affect the customer experience, which boosted the CSI, and we put together a follow-up process to make sure that the surveys we received increased and at the same time more closely reflected the customer experience. By implementing the process, their CSI score went up 100 points. They moved from the bottom of the district to the top of the district. Joey and Ron had moved into the money, CSI's scores were great. They ended up collecting more money from the incentive program from the manufacturer. The survey's quantities went up by 33%. I visited them the second month into the quarter, and they had already had more surveys they did than they would normally get for the full quarter. So the surveys went up 33%, which helped offset the bad ones because the majority of the surveys they were getting were from their happy customers. And the final thing which helped drive revenue is during their follow-up process we added an element to talk about declined services. And this dealership was scheduling 3, 4, 5, 6 declined service appointments per day, which meant more business for the dealership. That's a win-win-win situation. I don't know how you can call it anything less than that. Again, my name is Ed Stefanko, and I can help you. But I would try, if I'm going to help you, I'm going to try to find a long-term solution. You could find somebody to do the follow-up calls, and you may find somebody who's effective and can increase your survey quantities and increase your scores. I'm just not aware of anybody that I would say I recommend going to these people. My goal is to fix the long-term process. Give me a call, 817-896-3183. Talk to me about your challenges and what you're looking forward to do. I'll come together, put together a proposal, and we'll get you a long-term solution. Appreciate you taking the time. Have an outstanding week.